3 weeks, that's the clock. In 3 weeks, 7 molecules walk into a room at the FDA's campus outside Washington, and a committee spends 2 days deciding whether you ever get legal supervised prescriber in the loop access to them ever again. BPC 157, TB 500, KPV, MOTS-c, DSIP, Semax, Epitalon. If any of those have been in your body in the last few years, or if you ever have any interest in getting access to them, this one's for you. And a few days ago, the FDA dropped a stack of briefing documents that half the internet read as a tombstone. They said no to all 7, it's dead, pack it up. No, it's not dead. It's not even close to dead, but it's also not guaranteed to be in the bag yet. By the end of this video, you'll understand this fight better than about 90% of the people currently melting down in the comments. That's the deal, so stick around. And the part that I can't still quite believe that I'm saying out loud is that my name has been submitted to the FDA to stand up in that room and speak on the record to the federal government, which means somewhere between now and July 23rd, your boy has to go find a suit. If the FDA actually accepts me as a speaker, that is. No promises. Hopefully none of them have discovered what Google or YouTube is yet. But hey, I'm just one guy on the internet. What actually moves this is you, the thousands of you watching this right now. So before I explain a single acronym, do this. Pause the video, go to the link in the description, petmed.org/hearing, and file a public comment with the FDA today, before July 9th. I'll show you why that date is a hard line and why I want your comments to pile up into something a federal committee member will physically struggle to carry. Let's go. First, let's kill the panic because it's built on a total misread. Ronak, you saw the headlines. In your own words, what just happened?
FDA said no, peptides are over, time to start a GoFundMe.
Ronak actually just wants a GoFundMe to spruce up his editing cage. And he's right, that's what everybody thinks, and it's totally wrong. Those briefing documents are not a verdict. They're not a ruling. They are the FDA's own scientists writing up their argument and handing it to a committee that has not voted yet. Picture a bull ride. The gate hasn't opened yet. What you just watched was the bull throwing one warning kick inside the chute. The FDA showing you exactly how hard this animal is going to buck. But that's not the final score. Nobody has scored anything. The ride hasn't started, but the drum roll has. So why is there a room and a committee and a vote at all? For that, you have to go back to the single worst tragedy that ever hit the compounding industry. It's 2012. A Massachusetts pharmacy, the New England Compounding Center, ships steroid injections, the kind you get for back pain, to clinics in about 20 states, and the steroids were contaminated with fungus. 64 people died. Around 750 got sick. Fungal meningitis injected straight into people's spines and joints. That's the nightmare that built every rule that we're about to talk about. So in 2013, Congress stepped in and passed the Drug Quality and Security Act. And here's the one thing I need you to understand, because it's the entire argument behind this. That law was written to stop contamination, mold in a vial, a filthy clean room. It was never, not once, written because a molecule like BPC 157 was hurting anyone. It also split compounding into 2 lanes. You have 503A, which is your neighborhood compounding pharmacy, filling a prescription for one specific patient. And then you have 503B, the big outsourcing facilities that make larger batches. Tattoo 503A on your brain because that's the whole fight today. Now, the FDA won't let a pharmacy compound with just any raw ingredient. So for substances that don't have an official recipe on file and aren't already inside an approved drug, which describes a lot of peptides, the agency sorts them into 3 buckets. Learn these because every headline is mangling them. The first is category 1, which is bulk drug substances under evaluation. The translation is this: we're still reviewing it, but there's enough support and no red flag, so pharmacies can compound it. It's generally considered to be a green light. Compound 2, bulk drug substances that raise significant safety risks. Translation: we think these are dangerous, hands off. This is the penalty box. And then we have category 3, bulk drug substances nominated without adequate support. Translation: you didn't hand us enough data to even judge it, so go back, do your homework, and maybe come back later. In reality, that category is total purgatory, and those compounds are basically DOA. So in summary, we've got approved for compounding, but still under consideration. We have dangerous, and then we have you need to go back and do your homework. That's the whole filing system. And yeah, I get it. You clicked on a peptide video and I'm 3 minutes deep teaching you about federal filing categories, but stay with me. The boring part is the entire reason the fun part got taken away. Because here's what the headline skipped. For the better part of a decade, this class of peptides was legally compounded and prescribed in this country. Not from a research chemical site with more discount codes than references, from licensed pharmacies with real prescriptions, written by real providers, this one included, for real patients, held to the sterility standards that exist specifically because of what happened in 2012. Years of that, millions of doses, and the sky did not fall and patients did not get sick. Then came September 2023. With basically no warning, the FDA takes a whole shelf of these peptides, 19 of them by the agency's own count, and drops them into category 2, the dangerous bucket, overnight. And this should bother you even if you've never touched a peptide in your life. Changing that list is supposed to go through formal rulemaking. You publish the proposal, the public gets to comment. There's a process. They skipped that entire thing. They did it through a guidance update, a backdoor reclassification of drugs people were actively legally using through their prescribers. Patients found out when a refill just bounced. Doctors found out when the pharmacy called and said, we can't make this anymore. And I've sat across from that patient, the one who's been stable for 2 years, asking me what they did wrong. And they didn't do anything wrong. The rug just got pulled out from under them. The FDA decided to cosplay as a crypto bro meme coin scammer, but instead of just taking your money, they took medication from patients. No hearing, no warning, just gone. Now, in fairness, moving something into that dangerous bucket is supposed to require a real safety signal, adverse events, actual harm. So the compounding world did the reasonable thing. They asked the FDA to show its work. The industry's trade group, the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding, pushed hard for transparency. A couple of Texas pharmacies took the FDA to court, arguing the agency skipped the legal steps it's required to follow. And the adverse event data, the pile of harm that's supposed to justify branding a drug a significant safety risk, it never showed up. Because as best as anyone outside the building can tell, it doesn't exist. There was no wave of people getting hurt by pharmacy compounded peptides. The danger was purely hypothetical. And you don't have to take my word for it. RFK Jr., the current sitting Secretary of Health and Human Services, has said out loud that that move was illegal because the agency never had the safety signal to justify the change in the first place. And the FDA picked the worst possible decade to try this quietly, because at the exact moment they're pulling peptides off the shelf, peptides start detonating across the internet. You just can't gatekeep information anymore. People post their blood work, their recovery timelines, their befores and afters. Somebody tweaks their shoulder, runs a peptide, and tells 40,000 strangers how it went. A podcast mentions one, and the whole internet's Googling it before lunch. So slamming the legal supervised door didn't kill demand. It never does. It just shoved every one of those patients straight into a gray market. Anonymous vendors for research use only, with no doctor, no pharmacy, no real idea what's in the vial. The FDA manufactured the exact unregulated market it says it's scared of. Which brings us to right now. We have a new administration, and the Secretary of HHS, RFK Jr., wants these peptides moved back. He's called himself a fan. He wants regulated access through ethical suppliers instead of just the gray market. Earlier this year, the FDA pulled 12 peptides back out of the penalty box, partly because the original companies withdrew their nominations, which cleared the way for a fresh review. 7 of those 12 are up later this month, with 5 more up for consideration next year. And here's where I have to admit I got something completely wrong at the start of all this. I thought if the HHS secretary wants it, it's basically done. King of the castle, he runs the whole department. Snaps his finger and it happens. Well, it turns out that I was wrong. Really wrong. That isn't how any of this works. And a rodeo is the only way that I know how to explain it. Getting named Secretary of HHS doesn't make you the guy who owns the ranch. It makes you the poor cowboy who drew the meanest bull in the yard. The FDA, the career scientist, the institutional muscle, and decades of process dedicated to bureaucracy, that's 1,800 pounds of animal that does not care what your title is. RFK didn't buy the bull, he climbed onto its back, and now he's got to stay on long enough to bring it to heel. Those briefing documents everyone panicked about, that was just the first buck. The establishment showing exactly how hard it intends to throw him and everyone else advocating for peptide access. So who actually scores this ride? Well, it's a group called the PCAC, the Pharmacy Compounding Advisory Committee, and you need to know exactly what they are and exactly what they're not. They are advisory. Say it with me. Advisory. They don't own the arena either. They watch the ride, they take a vote, and they hand the FDA a recommendation. The FDA usually goes along with it, but it does not have to. And even a yes doesn't put peptides on a shelf the next morning. A yes just kicks off formal rulemaking, which on a normal timeline can take a year or more. So those briefing documents from last week are not the committee's answer. They're the FDA establishment's evidence packet, the House's side of the story, slid to the judges before the ride even starts. But that leaves a gap. The FDA handed those judges a thick binder that basically says, not out of human trials, worries about impurities, worries about how consistently these are made, and I'm being straight with you, some of that isn't necessarily crazy. A lot of these peptides genuinely don't have big randomized human studies yet. The FDA's job is to be the skeptic. Fine, I get it. But there is an entire body of evidence that binder does not capture. The better part of a decade of real-world use, millions of doses, what prescribers actually saw, the safety record, or more to the point, the absence of a safety disaster across all those years these things were legally prescribed. Somebody has to take all of that and lay it out for the committee in a way that's coherent, honest, and actually respects the science. Somebody has to walk into that room and make the case that FDA's binder left on the floor. And the people picked to do that are a slate of experts. We're talking physicians, PhDs, and pharmacists. And me, apparently. I've been asked by the American Academy of Peptide Medicine to be on that slate of speakers. My name is in front of the FDA right now, and I'm going to be precise about this because I can't oversell it. The FDA still has to formally accept me before I say a single word in that room. It's submitted, but not confirmed. But if it clears, your boy is standing on a federal podium on the 23rd and 24th, in a suit that definitely will not fit, presenting the United States government with the real-world peptide data. No pressure. So let me be very clear about what's on the table here. Make no mistake, this is Peptide D-Day. Do or die. This meeting decides whether we ever get safe, regulated, doctor-supervised access to these peptides through American pharmacies ever again. And the real prize, the long game, is bigger than one vote. It's pulling the raw ingredient manufacturing onto US soil, FDA registered, quality controlled, so we're not reconstituting a mystery powder that got shipped in a label not for human use or giving money to China every time someone buys a vial. This is our path to all American peptides, made under real oversight, and that's the goal. But here's what you have to understand about that room. I'm just one bullfighter in the arena. I'm just one voice. The thing that actually turns this into a win isn't just one guy in a borrowed suit. It's the roar of the crowd. Now, in a real rodeo, the crowd noise doesn't officially change the judge's score, but in this arena, it does, because every public comment filed with the FDA before the deadline gets printed and dropped into the packet that lands in front of every member of that committee. So here's the ask, and it's the only thing in this video that actually changes the outcome. Go to the link in the description, pepmed.org/hearing. It walks you straight to the federal comment page, and write something real. A couple of sentences in your own words about why supervised access matters to you. One honest paragraph beats 100 copy-pasted form letters. And do it before July 9th. That's the line. Comments in before July 9th get bundled into the report the committee reads before they vote. After that, your public comment still counts for the record, but it might not reach their hands in time. So July 9th, not the 10th, and not when I get around to it. And I want to be greedy here. I don't want a tasteful little select stack of comments. I want that binder to weigh 15 pounds. I want it to give some committee member a hernia. I want the sound of it hitting the table be the sound of thousands of Americans who are done getting handed to a gray market by the very organization saying that it cares about their well-being. And your comment is one more page in that stack, and it might be the page that tips the vote. Now, if you made it all the way here, you now get this fight better than most of the people panicking about it. So, 3 things. First, hit the like button, because a like is the cheapest possible way to shove this video in front of the next person who needs to file a comment. Subscribe, because I'm gonna be in that room and I'll bring back exactly what happened, win, lose, or draw, and then go file a comment. That last one is the only one that really changes anything. Ronik's gonna put a link on screen right here and a QR code up here. And yes, before you ask, I actually made him research how rodeo scoring goes before this video. I only read about it maybe an hour ago. I'm the board certified physician. He's the cowboy that has to make this channel run. Make it make sense.
You need to last at least 8 seconds to win in a rodeo, Alex.
Luckily, lasting 8 seconds is my specialty, Ronik. I'm Dr. Alex. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and go make a federal committee member's arms tired. Proceed accordingly.